Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is, well, still Monday, uh, September the 16th, 2019. And I'm back with my gal pal posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. And I mean, we kind of talked off camera about mine and Lisa's weekend, and we kind of did that a little on camera earlier today in a conversation that we had. Um, but we knew that BZ was going to have a pretty big weekend, and I'm so glad that we're going to get to talk about it. We're going to call this "A Girl and Her Dog Go on a Shamanic Journey." I think, right? I love that title. First of all, um, I also want to give a shout out to Joanna. I saw the video that you put on the IUV about her, that I'm gathering that she did on her own. That's a lovely video.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, very nice. And Lisa and I knew that you'd had a session with her with with you and Keegan and she
Right.
in Zoom.
Lovely.
And so we knew you were going to go on a shamanic journey, and for it to be over the full moon phase,
Yes.
which is all full illumination. This has been, a really huge, huge, huge shifting of energies. This, you know, and then some. So you're going to share all of that with us, and I'm really excited to hear all about it, BZ. Actually, I started texting you Saturday evening. I was like, okay, what's going on?
Well, I was instructed. I was asked, and I agreed that to be on, to be off electronics as soon. Well, I obviously hadn't been on any before right before I got there, and then to not go on any until the only electronic I used was the phone to get where I needed to go with the map thingy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so didn't use it for anything until I think this morning when I had to start work, and the work text started rolling in at 6 a.m. So.
Well, and that's kind of feels for me proper and right. And I mean, I've not been on any sort of what could be termed a shamanic journey, but in anything, when you're having an experience, if there's integration involved, it's always great to disconnect from all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things, so if we don't send this out, it won't matter. But I had said at the beginning that let's record it and we'll see if we'll send it out. One of the things with that is that I'm happy to share the journey, although it hasn't ended yet. But there were a lot of points. It's kind of it has to do with some of the roles and missions that I'm on. But a lot of points when I do things, I'll be fully experiencing it, and then I'll be asked, and then also so I'll ask me, and then also me and the shirt will think, okay, is this part, could this be of value for someone? Would this be interesting? Or is there like some little part that's intersecting where it's like smarmy coming up, or there's, I don't know how to do that, or how do you do this, or am I getting it right, or, any of those kinds of myriad things. And so I have a tendency, I can be fully engulfed in what I'm doing, and it's like there's like a little stenographer that says, oh, okay, let's write that one down, and puts it over there for ways that as I'm sharing, that kind of thing can be relayed and related as well. It didn't stop me, it didn't pull me off, but it may be helpful, in different places as a marker for someone, because whether you're going on a shamanic journey or other things, you're trying new things, you're wanting to play with your powers, and all that kind of stuff. And well, I don't know how to, or am I getting it right, or am I doing it, or am I thinking the right thing, or whatever it is, and or how do how do I stop the magic ship? I gotta drive. Whoa, it's got to that kind of stuff. So I thought those might be helpful to throw into, or if someone's in the energetic envelope is asking a question or something, those come into.
Well, as per usual, I always like to clarify. I personally feel like there's all different sorts of shamanic journeys.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm feeling like maybe if you could describe what kind of shamanic journey you were on, because honestly, one can have a shamanic journey sitting in a room doing nothing, looking at a wall, and it turned into what I would describe. I've had many a shamanic journey right here, just right here on my bed, meditating or whatever, and what I would call a shamanic journey. So, and I feel like there are all different sorts.
Yeah, well, you bring up a really great point, and it's one of the reasons that for me personally, I just do what I do and play with how I play, and someone will say, "Oh, that's a something." Okay. I'm not attached to, great. That's, if you want to call it a something, cool. I'm just, a girl or a dog doing stuff. So Joanna does shamanic work, and on her site, and I'll put the link in there, but on her site, she describes that shamanism started, and she gives the lineage of that, but shamanic work, just as you said, Sheila, has various different things, and it's working with and bringing the unseen into the scene. Okay, well, hey, we all do that. We may call it different things. We may come from a different tradition or a different, so that's part of what I was talking about, where, because a friend had asked me on Wednesday, actually, when the shamanic journey started, although it wasn't starting until Saturday at 11, what that was, and I explained it similarly the way Joanne did. I said, well, it's about going within, and it's about tuning to all that's there, and there's all sorts of stuff around you, and that you're communicating with that you may not consciously know at the moment. So that's kind of the way that and so you could have people who say, well, a shamanic journey has to be done this way, just like, you got the telepathy aspect. Okay, fine, have at it, So I'm just saying that this person I went to is very tuned in and very gifted, and this is her modality. This is her teaching. It's the tradition that she's worked with, and that, so her, how would you say it? The terminology that she uses, and she calls it an ally, which may be, if someone else in the shamanic has allies, and someone else may have, your guides. So, and I'm sure there can, people could sit here for hours and say, well, no, there's absolute this and that. Great. I'm not attached to any of those kinds of things. I'm just,
well, they're just labels. That's kind of partly why I wanted to bring that up as far as the shamanic journeying is considered. For me, it's all the same. We've talked many times about language and interpretations, right. and unfortunately, just what you said, folks saying, well, a real shamanic journey,
right,
is A, B, and C. You didn't really have, so I.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. I mean, you look it up, but I think a tendency was with a lot of people is that a shamanic journey, it's Indian or Native American. It's not. That's certainly, well, I mean, they can do it in sweat lodges and all that kind of stuff, but that's not where it originated.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not a devotee one way or the other of shamanism or anything else. I've not an objection to it. I don't, hey, okay, that's interesting. My connection is, do I meet it?
Right.
Can I connect with it? And do I feel that there's a resonance in the door that's opening for me to play? Then,
Right.
that works for me. And so there may be certain styles. So I'll start with, I went into Bellingham, and there she has a nice, it's an office kind of thing. And very comfortable. She had picked up all of her drums that I think she makes the drums too. She makes all her rattles, and she just picked them up because we were using the larger space in her office, which is kind of like a little tiny home. And she picked them up because they're all cowhide. And in case Keegan decided, because some dog might get in there, and if while we're having a shamanic journey and he's supposed to be there too, he may wonder, go, oh, wow, this cow, this drum here is good, man. Yeah. I said he won't do that, because that's like having a coffee table, and you can put a plate of food on the coffee table and he won't touch it. So he might go sniff it, but he won't. Anyway, so she picked those up, and he liked. He also was good at reading energy, so he'll be drawn to certain things. But ever since he's been a puppy, one of the things it's a way to help the dog be more present and body aware, and spatial relationships aware, and the whole energy and everything, to sniff flowers that that this flower smells different than that flower, and hey, there's little creatures on it, or butterfly, or whatever it is. So he will go and routinely go and sniff flowers. So anyways, he liked that, and he liked the energy. One rattle was different, had a different sound to it, and to him it had a different scent to it, so a different energy, and so you could see him navigate that differently. And so one thing that would be definitely on the shamanic when you go on a journey is she uses one of her rattles, and she sets the beat with the rattle, and different rattles will make different kind of the sound and stuff, different, I don't know if I'm not sure what makes them rattle, but different size of beads that are in there rattling, and there's different tones, and some can be softer, some can be louder. So, but the rattle is like, you could use it as people meditate with the flame, or so the rattle is the container, I would say. It's like the physical container that holds part of you here as you then journey. And another thing that she said at the beginning is that her training was to go into her heart space, to walk into that space, walk into that chamber, that room, that space, and find all of what she's encountering, what she's wanting to call forth, or what may come forth for her through that space. She says, a number of people will just kind of go out there, and then they have to bring it from out there in here, and then, and I said, well, I do that. I do that. I don't know what I call it. I don't know what box it fits in. But I go in because the universe is within inside me. I mean, every solar system, every multiverse, everything is inside me, and I can walk through the door, go in through the door and open it, just like I can open this door over here and go, oh, wow, look at that. There's, 4 moons and nebulae and all that kind of stuff. So I understand that, because I out there doesn't get out there until I put it out there. But I described it a totally different way.
That's the newest thing for me in all of this. It really is. It's that right there. That was been one of the harder things to get used to.
What, nothing out there gets out there without you?
Right. That I put it all out there. But I do see now where that's the absolute, way of it. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. 'Cause, 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 we had also, it was a 2-hour thing which went by really quickly. And we had a very, specific, intense focus in it. And that was around Keegan and I journeying, and maybe, when Joanna had done the animal communication reading, and she talked about his roles and missions and that kind of stuff, we, he'd been telling her, and first of all, that was amazing because of the things that he relayed. I asked questions and he relayed them back, and remember how I said that was one of the things that opened the door, that a door opened that I hadn't realized, and it made me a little bit, I don't know the right words, annoyed, disappointed. Yeah, I kind of screwed that up, sort of a thing. Or, wow, we were thinking smaller. It was a combination. None of those are right. Maybe a shaving of this and a smidge of that and a pinch of that, kind of all mixed together. Because I hold the relationship with Keegan or any dog different than most people do. So it's the same kind of expanded open heart. It's the same kind of, absolutely you can connect with them. And all, I'm not an animal communicator. I'm just a girl and a dog, and, we chat. So, kind of thing. But even with all of that, and even looking at things, like there's some things in training that someone might do in agility, they might walk their dog off the course. They pick them up and walk them off the course, and they'll use it for different reasons. They'll have kind of a thought behind it for different reasons. Some of it is, well, because they don't like it or it shames them. Thinking, well, that's a stupid human emotion. That's not an animal doesn't have. They don't. So okay, well, that I'm never doing that if that's my intent, because okay, I failed already. Oh, that was kind of stupid. So it's different reasons. Now, it's one thing if he, to stop and say, so what I would do is stop and say, and have him sit and say, okay, we have to leave now. And he'd go and he'd do different things. I said, no, we can't play if we're doing that. And this is the rules. And so we go. And so we would quietly walk together. Then he understood, well, I want to play. We can't play. We got to leave. But there was no shame. There's none. So the reason I bring that up is so I don't walk in the world and use that kind of stuff. I may use, dog type learning or steps or putting things together, because that's supposedly their brain capacity and everything else. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I guess, and I don't know the right word, it bothered me is not right, but it was definitely in the animal communication cater session, he was talking about how we've been around, we're in this, at the very least, and this is Joanna's description of it, in the same soul group. I think it's much deeper than that. And then I think I told her that, okay, well, we can go out of the box because I'm already way out of the box. And so, and this relates directly to the shamanic journey. We were thinking, there's a possibility of a puppy and this, that, and the other thing. And so one of the questions I'd asked was, what are you feeling about that? What do you think about that? And he didn't really like the idea. But it was not from a dog not liking the idea. And it was more from not wanting to share me, So I guess in there, two things that were revealed is that this is the first time he's been a dog. Well, that's not quite accurate. So in the shamanic journey, at the end, I guess we were kind of debriefing, and she said because I said my sense is that he's never been a dog before. And she said, no, not on, okay, that's what it was, not on this planet. And he has never been an earth human, but he has been humanoid and stuff before, and he's been other beings. And then I asked, because part of what was said in the animal communicator session was that there have been times in our eons together that we keep having these, really tight, deep connections where not just me, but one or the other, something would happen and a third would, hey, let's bring this other person to come play or dog to play or whatever it was. And so I asked on the shamanic, at the end of the wrap up the shamanic journey, is it always me who's bringing in the third one and screwing it up? Is it always, me and him and as a human and a dog or another thing, or, and she said all those various configurations, not always you. And so but there have been different times where you have this tightness and super connection, which we do. And then a third, someone thinks it's a great idea to bring this third person in, and no one can figure out who came up with such a stupid ass, not really great idea, So anyways, that was the focus of the shamanic journey. And in leading up to it, part of my thought was, well, so I do a good job of communicating and listening and paying attention and noticing with him, and not just your dog in the purely linear sense, but an animal in the spirit and all that kind of stuff. And kind of breaking things down and training and all that kind of with that bent, with that understanding. What I had, I don't know why I guess it just never occurred to me, which I think is kind of I would describe as a failing on my part. But the other way around, that purely the suit is a dog suit, right? But it's like I just put on a dog suit and I'm trying to figure out I'm on all four legs all the time, or how do I get these ears? Well, these ears are floppy. How do I get them to stand? Kind of a thing. So this is a soul who's come in to the dog suit that's not a dog. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then, of course, I started on this whole spiral. And this is, I think, one of those points where, well, you already started with shamanic and not and all that kind of stuff. But people think, animals are animals and it's a different soul and it's like a smaller or different or slower. And well, who wrote that? And that may be for some, but it's not across the board. It's not like there's an animal thing or a dog and it's on, because that's hierarchical, isn't it? Well, you got a dog soul, and then is a cat lower, is a cat higher, snail, rabbit, porcupine, whatever, right? I never held it rigidly in one way or the other. I just, I connected the way I connected. I never thought it all the way through. I never took it. So in that conversation, I had said, I said, well, actually, if you, and here's the thing, because I noticed on different things, I said, well, it's like he's new to the planet. He's just figuring out the planet and the dog suit kind of a thing. Well, that changes the complexion of everything. Kind of like if you realize that, hey, I'm new to the planet. I'm figuring out the human suit,
Well, I'm sorry, but isn't that I'm sorry, but that's where I'm at. I'm still there. I'm still trying to figure out the human suit.
But it opened up a different way for me to look at things, because not only to say, if we take agility for some, as an example, kind of a past example, well, this is the game, and this is the rules that someone came up with, and this is the thing of the thing, and for me, what appealed was that there was a way to be in sync, to play, and there's a game and you do it, but to have that level of connection, to have that, to we hadn't gotten there, but to get to the place where you are telepathically, where you are in sync and tune. And so you talked about, and we've talked about it a lot, but you've mentioned, Sheila, where an athlete will go and visualize the run. So we would then sit there and visualize the run, and it's always going to be different. And what your course is doing is always different. Times are always different, and the actual day is always different. But nonetheless, so that was what was appealing to me, in a way for him to, where he has to think, and problem solve, because of the kind of dog that he is. But I never looked at it as, this is Keegan and he's in a dog suit, so we're going to play this game in a dog suit, and he's new to a dog suit and the planet. It just, I never went there, which I think is weird that I never went there, but okay, so I'm learning that to figure that out. So that was the focus of because Joanna had said she recommended that I do different inner work that I would do to figure out, is there karmic stuff back there? Is there stuff where these, someone came up with this great idea that we were going to add a third being to, the simpatico friendship relationship, whatever it was that we had. And, I think her direct quote is, it just went to shit. I said, oh, that good. Okay. Well, let's try to avoid it. Maybe we could learn this eon that we don't do that. I said, no, I'm good. I don't actually directly remember, but I don't need to repeat it. And he's like, we're not doing it again. So that was the focus. So she starts in the shamanic journey, and what she did first was interesting, is she went ahead and she went on a small journey herself and did the rattle, so he would get used to it. And he said, okay, he just laid right on the floor and he's watching, and the eyebrows are moving with the rattle, and you can feel him sensing, like when someone does energy work on him, so he can process and stuff. And she was meeting with her allies and her tribe, and she was also laying the groundwork. She would talk a bit through that. So she's gone into her heart space, and she's gone into this chamber, and she was basically, and I mean, no disrespect, she was basically having a powwow with her allies and figuring out, okay, this is who these beings are. They've come forward. This is the focus. This is what we want to do. This is my connection with them so far. So I can relay that. And they were all kind of coming up with the best way. And I'm sure, all of me was there, right? Although me in the chair didn't quite get that. And he was there, and our souls were there. And, also it's probably really full room.
Sounds like it.
Most rooms are pretty full. We just don't see it.
That's right. So with all my allies and all that kind of stuff. And that was pretty short. And so she went and she did that. And then she came back and she said, well, what we want to do is go into the heart chamber, and in the big I'm going to use the words that I'm pretty sure that came to me. Whether they came out of her mouth, I don't know. And it doesn't really matter because that's how it presented to me. It's almost like, you know, I was translating a language. And so it was a big, quite a large room in the heart space. You get through the chamber, and around the wall, there are these different corridors, or not tunnels, but conduits with hatches. And so as she's describing this, it was funny. So I've got my eyes closed. I'm now in my heart center as well as she's describing this. And so she said it's going to be a chamber, and there's going to be different portals and different hatches. We'll open the hatch. You actually won't go in through the hatch. You can look in the hatch. You won't cross the threshold or plane of the hatch. And you and Keegan will both go meet the hatch. You'll choose the hatch, meet the hatch, and you will ask for just the gifts for you to come out of the hatch. You will close, lock, seal the hatch, and all that was in the hatch will stay there. The only thing that will pop out are the gifts. And we'll go around the chamber, and you'll choose the ones, and all your allies will be right with you. I will be there. All of my allies will be there. My tribe will be there. You know, there'll be lots of guidance and safety measures and all that kind of stuff. And I think that was kind of a general disclaimer, but I also get the sense just from me, from how I was at that, you know, there were some certain chambers that safety measures were a really good thing that they didn't cross through. And he had some reaction to that. His head popped up at one point, and so all that was kind of interesting, you know. And again, my way that I do these things is I encounter them, and I connect with them, and you know, I meet it, and I'm subject to it, so I don't ask a lot of questions because I'm not wanting to slot or label. You know, I want to meet it. So it will reveal itself. You know, I may ask one or two later, or I may ask as I re-encounter the energetic envelope. But, you know, for instance, I wouldn't say, well, what do you mean nothing gets out? Or, you know what I mean? Because I've already set myself up where, and this is another thing that, you know, that may be illustrative for people, is that trust in oneself, confidence in oneself is so important. And everybody will do it at different levels, and you'll get better and better and better. And you are the expert for you. So in having that connection, trusting that this is someone, this other person, being who's conducting this, is someone that you resonate with to want to go on this journey, because you're talking about energy, and whether you understand it or not, know it or not, believe it or not, it's energy, and that's where everything is created. So it's important to have a space, and to create the space, and to create the energetic envelope that is only of the highest light, and that you are very clear with your choosing. But it's beyond just saying it. I mean, you could read from a piece of paper in the script, but if that's not the feeling,
right,
you know, that you have, that you're not owning that, it won't do you any good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet you could just not know what to say only highest love and expansion. And that's all you say. That's all I choose. I don't want anything else. I do not give. That's all you need. Because that, you know, in the I don't know what to say, or whatever you may think you're going, you can be resolute in that. So anyways, so I don't ask a lot of questions. Because for me, there can be a pigeonholing to that, you know. So now you're you're interrupting the flow of it happening. Yeah.
My sense of what you're saying here is kind of the sense of what I've kind of come to for myself in regards to whatever presents. Because if I'm gonna be down with the idea, and I am, that we're all one and yet singular, then nothing that presents, I don't care what it looks like, tastes like, smells like, feels like, is anything other than me in a different suit or whatever. And so so what you're saying there, that's kind of where I'm at with what you're saying, because it's kind of the same thing. If it's presenting to me, there's a reason it's presenting to me.
Right.
Even if it's scary AF, it's presenting to me for a reason.
Right.
And not to run away from it, because that's the same thing as anything else anyway.
Right.
So I like the idea of course, one should feel safe and comfortable with someone. And I use the word safe, but to me, that's kind of an illusion anyway, because again, if it's all one and yet singular, then you're not going to encounter anything that's not a part of you on some level.
Right. And that's really the beginning of part of the integration, is to integrate this. So, okay, what don't I feel safe about? Where is that coming from? And how and why, and to what end am I perpetuating that? You know,
right.
I'm characterizing it that way. And so that's the beauty of it. Everything is play. Everything is integration. Everything is expansion. And yeah, it could be, you know, spine-tinglingly delicious or spine-tinglingly terrifying. Okay, you know. And you may choose to have more of this and less of that or whatever, but that's how we meet and know ourselves. And that's how we're going forth to know Source.
Yeah.
You know, to bring it back. So one of the things at the kind of the close of that section of it, Joanna asked me to describe, you know, what did I notice, or did I feel anything? Did I see anything? Because the whole time that she was doing it, I was in the space as well, and then she was doing the journey. And so I went on to describe, you know, the colors and the senses and the feelings. So I had, you know, the videos that were playing and all that kind of stuff, and the different portal doors and hatches, and I described them, and it's funny, it wasn't until after I told her, and she and her allies gave a bit of an admonishment when I was done, was that I realized I had opened the different doors and, you know, looked at the handle, the different colors, and there was different energy behind the different ones. And, you know, we didn't, you know, he and I were talking and we're looking in, we didn't, you know, cross the threshold and all that kind of stuff. And she said, so it's probably a really good idea if you don't do everything once and then go around and do it again. Just slow down. We'll do it together.
Say that again. Your voice got really low.
Slow down and we'll do it together once. Because, hey, I'm in the chamber and she's talking about how it will work.
So and you're already over there.
So I'm working it.
There's BC. Yeah, you told me. I'm Johnny on it.
But I didn't think of it as that I was doing it. I was just, you know what I mean? So she was saying, well, this is how it'll be, kind of to describe, you know, so maybe you'd feel more comfortable, or you knew it was coming, or how.
No, BC's already gone. See ya. I'm not waiting for you.
So it wasn't until after she said that I was like, oh okay. Yeah, no, I didn't do it on all the doors. It just, so like I already thought, well, I had put up, and I described that when I opened the thing, I had put down a shield that was completely, visible through, and you could hear sounds and all that kind of stuff, but nothing could, it was hermetically sealed, nothing could out. So at least I, hey, I did, careful kind of stuff. But I guess she's absolutely right. It didn't occur to me. And I didn't set out to go, well, okay, you keep talking about it, and I'm just going to, what's in this hat? I didn't. Anyway, I thought that was funny. And it was interesting because there was quite a lot of humor around that. And I could look back on other things and go, yeah, okay, apparently. And it's because if I was going to separate, me and the chair isn't thinking to do that. It isn't, well, I'm going to open, okay, you're busy. I'm going to, open kind of thing. All I was doing was describing the sense and the color and maybe, and now here's something that just came to me, so that's very interesting. Maybe since it's multidimensional, and I'm multidimensional, that in the moment where she went through this first journey that she was on, and she came back with the information and she described it, that I could tune in and pull from what she was describing, and we were already in the beginning of our journey together. I don't know, but it just dawned on me that, is it ahead, or am I just able to pull something, my video recording of the something that was ahead, and pull. So that's actually very interesting.
No, yeah. Let me share how interesting I think that is. We actually covered this. It's an energetic that's presenting itself in multiple people in multiple ways. And I bet we're going to find, remember our last conversation, we were talking about Laura Walker's Prepare for Loveliness and Lisa precogging some information from that. That has come up in our field a couple of times since then, not just with each other, but Albert has precogged a few things. And there's been, I had another conversation with Jesse and Nathan, and there's been some precog going on over there. So this is an energetic that folks are really, and it's whether or not we notice it, or you know what I mean. It's
right. Well, I've done. I mean, it's not a new thing. I've done this before. I do it. What's new to me is the thought of, well, hang on, did I really go ahead, or am I able, since it's all now, am I able to say, oh yeah, I got the video here, before it's happened, because it's hasn't happened, has happened a long time ago, is just about to happen, all happening at the same time, right?
Right.
That to me, that for that thought, that, well, hey, wait a minute, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's new, but the going and doing it already is not new. Apparently I do that a lot. But now I'm questioning, and this I really want to play because that's quite interesting. Am I really? Or can I just reach into the, the multidimensionality of it, however you hold that with your hands, but, so.
Access that event now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
So, and maybe that's what precog is. It's pulling it out of.
I think it is.
So
it's unifying with that moment in this moment. Yeah.
If you think of everything, it's all film or video, right? And so each one is a frame. So the sprockets are here. This is a frame. This is a frame. So that's going, and you can grab it and pull it back, right? Because maybe others can't do that. So that's pre to what happened. But not all of us, not just some of us are multidimensional. We're all multidimensional. Some of
Well,
us realize it. Some of us can actively, cognitively play with that.
right.
But it's no one corners the market on being multidimensional.
Oh no, absolutely. You're right about that. Well, the whole thing is, for me, what you were describing there is we got the slowing down of the idea of everything holding happening at once. That's the whole reason we're linear, because
Right.
we figured out how to slow that perspective down to engage in this physical reality using a linear mindset in order to experience. That's what I feel like we're doing, is
Yeah, we're
experiencing.
linearizing the multidimensional aspect of us.
Right. And since we are now really coming back into that wholeness of really grokking, if you will, who and what we are, that ability of which you're speaking on there, some of us are accessing it, in my case, maybe accidentally, and not realizing what I've done or whatever, but it's coming more and more, and we're seeing it more and more. And of course, the more we trust that, oh yeah, hey, wait a minute, I just did that.
Yeah, and that's what I call your multidimensionality is showing.
Right. And more will come
You
too.
can't stop it. In fact,
No.
what we thought, that's why if someone says, well, so this is interesting. I was, someone may say, well, I don't know how to do it. Or so at the very beginning, Joanna asked me, do you have any questions or any concerns or anything? And I said, no, I'm good. I said, Smarmy, is coming. He thinks it's cute. He's entertaining with this. Well, are you going to do it right? Are you going to go far enough, deep enough, wide enough in it? And I thanked him very much and told him there was a nice park bench out there. He could, just go chill for a little bit, and I'd catch him later. And so she laughed, and we talked a little bit about that. But so now I didn't. There was real separateness to that because it came through like a voice in the room or something, and I acknowledged it and said, okay, that's, I guess, a possibility, and thanks, and there's a cool spot out there. Off you go, because I'm here doing this, and you're not. That bench has got your name on it, and none of the space in here does.
That's right.
So we did it. So then we went and she had this one sounded like sand at the beach. The first one was a very soft rattle and set the tone. And I have to laugh. This is kind of goes with the admonishment of, not going and doing it all first and then doing it again. And so she said, or I'm getting, some direction that maybe this stronger rattle. So it had a little bit, the beads were, something in it was different. It made a different sound, and that's the one he really liked. So I said, well, he really likes that. Because she used it a couple of times, and I said with a big grin on my face, and I said, being that it's a little stronger rattle, it might be, good to be, like the containerized, where when the rattle goes, it's like, me, get right. This is your space. No, come back in. So she laughed. She said, well, that's what we were thinking. But I had to say it. I had to give it force. So that's it. At least from my experience with this setup of the shamanic journey, all it was with everything, but in here, You have to ask for it.
Oh.
And so things may be discussed and things may be said, but it may not be offered to you. It's, it's kind of you meeting it and owning it.
Right.
So we went with that, and then we started, and then she said, okay, well, let's go. So you'll go to your heart space and let me know when you're there. And then, and I don't normally use it, but because I told her, I said, I spend a lot of times where I do my, journeying, my meditating, my shamanic journey, whatever, if someone wants to put a label on it, it could be any combination of those things. I do it with my eyes wide open. I'm standing up most of the time, and I'm outside, where I could be in the house or whatever. And so I described it, and she said, "Oh, well, that's fascinating." I said, "Well, yeah, because it started when I was a kid, and I realized now it was intentionally part of my training. But, when it was meditation or all the things, it was just yet another thing I wasn't good enough at, or couldn't do it right, or not good enough, or and I thought, well, okay, I get enough of that." And all the rest of my life, I'm just gonna do it my way. I don't care what it's called or if I'm doing it wrong, or too bad. And because of that, that's been, maybe a thumbing at my nose at stuff, or a bit of arrogance or whatever, but it made me comfortable with what I chose to do. And that I was doing it, and I wasn't doing this or this or this or this. So I didn't have anybody's litany of things, how that I had to color inside the box, or I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. So it can't be wrong because I'm doing it. Because I
Right.
can. You know what I mean? And I realize now very strongly that was absolutely intentional training. And I'm sure it would have been worked with, and if I decide, I can't do it right, or to stop or whatever, but that wasn't my choice. I took that and said, well, good on you. I'm doing it, I'm just making this stuff up as I go and do it. So I more and more that's come highlight back, because and I'll get back to later, but it's one of the highlights that came to me at the end of this whole 2-hour double shamanic journey. So she she gave me a scarf to put around my eyes, and I thought, well, I'll try. She said, well, if you don't like it, take it off, because it's like when I do guarding, I don't put gloves on, because I'm empathic. I need to touch everything and have the feel, and even if it's thorns, I don't want to have that shield, because I can't have the same in-depth, intimate connection. And since I'm more interested in the way I walk in the world, I'm more interested in having that in-depth, really nuanced, intimate connection with all things, than being super worried about having super soft skin on my hands, or I don't care if I have to go someplace and I have calluses or something, and my hands are stained because I've been picking blueberries, or soil or whatever, then I'll make a water and bleach solution and bleach them, and go on about my business. But so anyways,
I just show up with blue fingers or purple fingers or whatever. don't make no never minds to me.
So I tried that, and then we went on the journey, and it was interesting because I have done some, and this would have been the third one, and they have been different. They've been through various different times in my life, so I've been vastly different. And they are carried around in different ways. One was with drums and more of a fire and sweat lodge thing. Another one was around a big circle, and it was a group thing. So all slightly different. And the last two I'm very different than I was the last, but even so, this was a twosome shamanic journey. So Keegan and I are doing this. So he's walking with me. And it's not like I forgot him or forgot that he was there, but I also trust that he is a powerful soul just like I am. And so I don't need to be, he's not a little dog. Does that make sense? So I don't need you okay? Is it good? Right? I don't hold that because you don't separate beings out that way.
Right.
But it was something that got marked for me as, because Joanna would then say, well, how's Keegan doing? What's he doing? And so then I could look down, he's right there, and I can describe it and see what he's saying, or get a sense of what my sense of what his sense is of what, when we opened up, because he and I are standing there, and they're all they've stepped back, and so we're right up front, opening the particular hatch on this thing, and all was by choice. So we're in the chamber, and I described what it felt like. It was a beautiful chamber, very high vaulted ceilings, and it felt like it was a big wooden chamber, but I realized as I played with it over the weekend that it was more like, it wasn't so much inside or outside. It incorporated all of those things. So it was very, the wood was almost part of the trees, were still part of the wood. I don't quite know how to describe it, but and it was very old. It very, very ancient, in the kind where something that's ancient, something that has antiquity, something that has reverence, something that has, you know, the light and the wisdom and the power and the love that's gone on before, that that you call forth. So it was that, and then so I described a little bit what I saw in the different things, and then I was asked just to tune in. That's my word, and to choose it. What door did we want to go? What portal? What hatch did we want to go to first? And this is how I look and read things. The light changed a bit, and there was almost like a pulsing, or maybe a slight change in color or lighting around the different doors, and then one, as I kind of scanned them. So in scanning them, and he's doing the same in scanning them, I was looking upon them, focusing upon them, but then one would light up as the one to choose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm just remarking on that exact same words came out of Lisa's mouth yesterday in regards to something. She was scanning them and looking for the one that lit up that said, yes, choose me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, great. And I described, where in relationship to us, where we were standing, that it was. And so everybody turned, we moved to that one. And, I described the color of the door. Was there any particular energy or sense, or, all that kind of stuff. And then before I went to open it, now remember, I'm not going in anything. So she kind of reminded me about that. And then she said, declare, and again, I don't know what her words are, but for my words, declare, what is your intention? What do you and Keegan plan to do and take from this and all that kind of stuff? And that you will not enter it, and you will not allow, you will not take anything from it, and nothing, everything that's in there will stay in there except for the gifts, that will be. Now, someone just asked a thought, and I forgot part of that is, so these gifts, it could be in that particular experience, that particular lifetime, use different things, depending on what's in the quarter, but could have been horrific. Could have been scary monsters and scary beings and slashing, dashing daggers and torture chambers and whatever. But there's still gifts in there. With anything, there always are.
So let me make sure I understand you correctly. So you were not to enter the corridor, right. Simply peer in.
Right.
And the gifts from that particular interaction, experience, life, the gifts from that would be what would...
We called them forth. We called them forth to come out, and they were the only thing that was allowed to come out.
I see. Okay.
Well, that was the way we set it up. It didn't
right.
work that way, but that was the way we set it up. So, so using my own word, she didn't say this. I suppose I could have said, well, I don't know how to do that, or what do I say? And, so I thought for a moment and tuned in for a minute. And for me, because I am 100% responsible, accountable, liable for me, as I'm sovereign. And, I'm one. So I say, I choose. And then we look at him and get his thing. We choose, to do this. And that only the highest vibration of expansion and love will be there and seal everything else in. And then we call the gifts for it. So I said it slightly different ways, different, times around. And just to jump forward ahead a minute, for the secondary went to, I think I had said, but I don't think she heard it. And so she stopped, or maybe I didn't say it, or maybe I didn't say it explicitly enough about the, everything else stays in there. I'm not calling forth those experiences, just the stilled gifts. And so I want to point that out, because there was, in the words that I was using and choosing, there were the whole, as some people would hold it, the protections and the balances and the safeguards and the, don't invite just anything in, and, were the gifts cleansed. And yes, all that was in there in the way that I said it. More importantly, the way that I felt it, and the way the two of us stood. Right now he's in a dog suit, so he was next to me. But much as we would encounter other things, so I just want to mark that, because I know intuitively to do that. And in this one part where either I didn't say it loud enough or explicitly enough, or perhaps didn't say it, I'm pretty sure I did. But anyways, all that were there said, well, can you make sure to say that, or say it again? So I did. So, as far as making those protections there and stuff. So the first one, and what was interesting in the gifts, so someone's like, well, what are the gifts? What'd you get? And as all of this is occurring, much sensory information and input is coming in. So I'm seeing things, I'm feeling things, I'm sensing things, I'm getting videos of things, and they're like going in the video slot that I have. I'm having, I mean, I've described it before, you know, I think it was in one of the innings we played in a, you asked me a question, how I see things, I think. And it's such a, so one of the ways it comes down is if I'm looking at my view screen on the, you know, with the eyes open on the right hand side, it's like a streamline that comes down, and it's the geometric patterns and codes and stuff. And oftentimes I would describe those, and particularly this time, where what I was seeing was like the name on the file folder, you know, would come through, and these thick files would come in. But if you ask me in that moment, okay, well, what does that file say and what does it got in it? I don't know. I know that I have it all. I know that it's all in and in the process already of integrating and being revealed. And so that if you perhaps ask me another question, that I could access that file and use to answer the question. Does that make sense?
Yes. I've had those sorts of feelings too, where you're getting something, you know, you're getting something. It's like a whole entire packet, and you don't have access to much of any of it at first. But
well, not only that, but you, yes. And in this instance too, I didn't have access to it enough to enunciate what it was. But like I said, if there was something that either I wanted to call forth information or had a question or someone else did, that I could then answer because it was in the packet. So it's one of those things where it was just so. I just may not have known that that was just so there yet until it arose, and then it would pop out. Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
So again, that's part of my training. And remember I talked about asking questions of, so not to fret or worry or kibitz or fuss on all that, and well, you know, nothing's happening, or I don't know everything yet, or I can see all this stuff but I don't know what it means, or you know, because I know it will come, and I already know that it's already here. Can I describe in great detail? No. But since I'm the lock, the key, the decoder and the uncoder and the translator, you know, I got it all covered.
You left out the door. You are also the door itself.
So we did that one, and a whole bunch of information came in. You know, it's interesting, and I chuckled to myself as it was happening, because I think, you know, Smarmy may have peeked through the window and said, well, did you get an answer yet? You know, or so did you get, like, you know, the karmic thing that's out, so you fixed that, we get the puppy, you know, that, you know, this kind of Smarmy kind of stuff. And I said, well, the way you phrased the question, no, not yet. Well, I haven't seen that, but I got a whole lot of stuff here, which I think is far beyond the prize of, you know, all that. So, and we had a lot of other doors to go through, so I, you know, wasn't worried about it. So then we kind of regrouped and tuned back in, and the same kind of thing to pan with my senses and eyes and whatnot, and Keegan as well. The the different it's kind of like story time over here. They're all listening to you know, the different doors. And so I chose another door and described where it was, and you know, using a clock, so I would say it's directly behind us, or so the next one was actually directly behind us. And different sense around the door, different color, different energy, feel a little bit quite a bit more intense. And I was choosing, so it wasn't like, you know, in this experience, this shamanic journey, I was driving the boat. Now I have to tell you, if someone else is driving the boat, I think I may have left the shamanic journey, because to me, I'm the expert for me. Yes, I like the guiding. Yes, I like, the prompting or whatever's going on, and someone else. I really like it because they're good at this game, and I'm coming to play. Asking them to play with me, and but if there had been, well, you have to do it this way. You got to stand in the leg, and I may have gone through it, but I know that my shields would have come up to a much greater extent, and I just would have kind of played along, and withdrawn a lot of myself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I've kind of experienced others that have said something very similar. If something doesn't resonate, or if it's got to be done this way or that way and it doesn't feel right, well, I'm just not going to participate. I'll go over here. I'll sit there maybe,
Right.
but I'll run my own show.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I feel that. I totally get that.
I just wanted to bring that aside in because I think that's just my.
Well, it's mine too. It's actually all three of us, because
that's an important one, I think.
Yeah, it is a very important one. Lisa and I just did another conversation, DIY Ascension, today, because that's really what this is all about. And the need for conformity is old school. It's the old paradigm. It's having, the A, B, C, and you got to do it this way, this way, this way, this way is BS and not true.
Right. Well, and the way this was set up, I liked that there was a kind of a meeting and everything beforehand, which I was, could obviously, in whatever linear before, present, after, you want to say that I got it, where this was discussed and would be the best, most valuable way to do what I'd asked to do. Okay.
Right.
Cool. But, but had I then been taken to this door, so the rules of the game, the location, the team colors, all that kind of stuff. This is the game we're playing. Okay, and now you have to do, their doors, but you got to open that door first. Now then, a question would have come up. Or perhaps more of just a statement.
Yeah. Who's choosing the door and why?
That's right.
I gotcha.
So the next one was so I think there was two. I think there was a total of 4 doors that we ended up doing. Maybe 5, but could have been 5. Anyways, and there weren't big, at the time, there weren't big, noticing, except that at one point, and at the moment, and playing with it over the weekend, and now, this was again me stepping up to my own challenge, my own mastery, my own decision. So my own, I'm all in, or I'm kind of in, And so in that, I described it, I said, okay, well, which, and this was a setup intentionally, because it's all energetic and it's all divine. So, it's not like entrapment or gotcha or any of that kind of stuff. But again, since I am the captain of my ship, and what am I ready for? And I'm always, it's one of the reasons I could have done this over Zoom, and I wanted to go there because I knew that the power of being there was just gonna. So I said, well, two are kind of lighting up and calling for me, and one was at 2 o'clock. She looked at and one was at 11 o'clock, and it's interesting because Joanna then piped up with her ally, said, well, and I was listening and paying intent, focusing on not only the specific words and energy of the words, but I knew intuitively, it's not like I do shamanic journeys all the time, so I don't know that this was part of the protocol, but in what was stated, there was the offer, a challenge was given, the offer of a challenge, how far, fast, wide, deep, high do you choose to jump, explore, adventure, right? You feeling me on that, right?
Yes.
Was it said that way? No. But intuitively, I knew, because I've been listening to everything that she'd been saying and relaying from her allies. But I knew when I presented it that way, that, and what was then said, that there was great weight and nuance and distinction in the in the words, in the phrase that was said. I just knew it. Had this, I decoded whatever that was. No one, she didn't say, well, this is. And the gist of the sentence, although I don't remember exactly, but I remember it exactly at the time, was that, well, we don't, and it wasn't time, but we've covered a lot. We'd already been at this for a bit. Right now, it's we can't do 2 and 11, so it'd be good to go with 1. And in that fact, the 2 came first and the 11, and there was a directional to it. I remember that distinctly. And so that's what I'm talking about. In there was the choice. We can go the easy door, or we can go the hard door. Not explicitly. Do you see what I'm saying? It wasn't.
Yes.
But so that's why I call it a setup. So in that whole setup, was I tuned in? Was I present? Was all of me there? Was my conversation that was going back and forth with Keegan, and because we're a team and we're on this journey and we're playing this game and we're on this quest, which is really what it was.
Right.
At the moment. And I remember before I even said anything, and I didn't have to think to ask him, we both turned as one, as if we were on a starting line or something, turn as one and said, we'll take that door. And at the moment that I said that, everything changed. The chamber felt very different. All the beings, the entourage, however you want to describe it, everybody in the room, felt different. A sense of, this is not, Well, I was going to say on guard, not quite right. On point, vigilant, aware, step up the game, step forward, come forward, um, look sharp. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And since now I was in the habit of just, sharing what my everything's picking up, and Keegan too. I said, Keegan's looking sharp at this door, and I said, it looks different, feels different. This hatch feels different. And I said, it's a heavier door, very heavy, and the hasp on it is much heavier grade. And I said, the door is black. It's or like a heavy blacky gray. And I said it has great weight to it, not only the door and the hasp, but and what I just remember now and realize then Joanna can't see all of what I can see. She's not permitted to. That's non-interference. Again, my wording, I don't know what they call it in shamanic, but and so she can take different things to guide and all that kind of stuff, but so there now me and Keegan, got it all going on and they know it's there, but and the other allies, so they okay, so here's another thing to mark, and I've been playing with this for quite a lot, and this is one of the takeaways, so maybe this is a good part to kind of, because it goes right here, and kind of pull that in, that and I think I wrote some, that not only the connection to Keegan, but the connection to all that is, the connection to decoding, to going on adventures, to doing wacky shit like this, whatever, that I have I sell my there may be a propensity or a bit of a and the languaging purely placeholder language, but a bit of a habit to myself to sell myself short. Does that make sense? So
a lot of us do that. I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah. And
nearly everybody on the planet actually, who doesn't realize who and what they are. Oh yeah.
Well, not only was I, and so to kind of weave this into the place we are right now in the journey is,
okay,
it was mine and Keegan's journey, so we were choosing and accepting the guidance, but we also had the clearest sense, knowing, description, understanding of just what was in those doors. Now, did this person right here at that moment? No, not in a way that I could verbalize, but I knew it. Does that make sense? And so the others were taking their lead from us. And so I think in something like this, the propensity is, well, they're the person who's doing the shamanic, so they're the expert. Yes, for them they are. And in their training they are. And in how they work with their allies, yes. And they may have a lot of experiential knowing, and they may have a lot of gravitas in what they're doing, right? Skill and wisdom, and you could name all sorts of you're looking at different textures and components of it.
Right.
But the mastery, not only the masteryship in going forward with it, in attaining it, it's kind of a combination of calling it forth and exuding it. It is coming from the particular being that has chosen to do this. And so one could say, what comes to me to say is that I was choosing and calling forth to not only walk this road and agree to this test, but also I was calling it forth and coming. I'm not quite sure how to. I was doing pretty good for a while, but it just kind of stalled out.
You called it forth and you met it.
Yes. So I was the one who had the clearest picture of what was unfolding and of what was about to unfold. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one might think, okay, well, this Joanna woman, she's got it all going on. She's there and all her allies, and so they're going to take care of me. Yeah, that, if I wanted to or needed that, but only taken from my lead. And so this again goes to, we're not small. And we may not know or be able to describe, chapter and verse on something and get it all here, right? But we do here, which is us. And that's why following your nudges and all those kinds of things, because then that helps you build up that rapport and that connection and that confidence and just do it.
Yeah.
Go do it. No, you're not tired. No, don't tell me about you don't have the money or this, that, and the other. This is me in the linear thing, but that's how you get to where you go. That's how you get to have these things, because you've earned it. You stepped forward for it. You've again, you can look at it one way or the other. It's all you. Just how you're languaging is which side of the picture, the coin, which dance partner, let's say you're. So these are kind of things that I already have a knowing and understanding of, and I'm fierce about making sure to relay to others. But when I go through something like this, and then it's actually very helpful for me to have this conversation that may not be helpful at all or of value to anybody else, but for me, I'm realizing that it is to do this. So back to this door that I was signaling to them, big bad door, big bad shit behind the door. But no, I wasn't shaky or no trepidation. No, just, this door is heavier. This, just laying it out. Just what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, what I'm seeing, what I'm picking up on, what I'm feeling, what he's feeling,
Right.
He's game. He's ready. He's alerting a little bit more, to use a dog term, and he's scoping it a little bit more. And what was interesting was, like I said, there was a moment where it called them all to signal, so they may have already been sensing stuff, but this feels really important as a kind of a breakdown of a tool to help others with it. So I want to play with it just for a minute. You know, you've heard where your guides, angels, whatever, you've got to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Explicitly, specifically, implicitly, directly. No pussyfooting aroundly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't that the same? I mean, it's really kind of in line with the fact of, you consent.
Yeah, non-interference clause.
Right.
It's a real thing.
Yep.
In fact, it's a really strict real thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks may think that that was something that was invented by Gene Roddenberry, and the original author of Star Trek. The prime directive is not to interfere, but that's not.
No,
I mean, that's just
it's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
I mean, how many times since we've met have you heard me talk about that? It's
Well,
something
yes,
that I won't go beyond.
Well, and we've actually had a conversation. I know we did, because we've talked about how noticing when we do kind of do that interfere, how that turns out.
Yeah.
I mean, remember we had that here where, stepping out of one's lane to interfere can cause all sorts of things, including one to fall flat on their face in the backyard. Now, too, for me anyway, because I think I kind of set that up,
Can you hear me
now?
now?
Yeah, that's right. Get a damn memo already, Sheila, would you please?
I got your attention yet?
Yeah, exactly.
So this, and then and again, very matter of factly, just describing these things and acknowledging them, and myself changing my stance, changing, maybe upping my shields a bit more. And he does it. He did it too in his own, his way. That's very, and my perspective is slightly above him, and a little bit behind, because he's right with me. So, but very things I've noticed, lots of times when we do different things. So what was interesting, and now talking about it has helped me to decode it a bit more, is so they then actively went on alert because of my description.
Mm.
And how I was relaying it. I wasn't saying, whoa, I'm not going in there to forget it, Very neutral about my description, but incredibly clear nonetheless. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a saw behind that door that's this big, and the teeth are this big, and the engine's going X number of RPMs, and the moment we open it, it's going to come down, and, don't put your hand too close to the slice right there. It was kind of like that kind of thing. And not in any kind of drama way, just very neutral, very neutral. So that's another interesting thing, is the something about the neutrality, because I'm meaning it. Not playing with the fear or the other,
Well, yeah, we've talked about that before, fear being an invitation only. And yeah.
So Joanna said, okay, well, we're going to come a bit closer to you now when we open this door. And then, and in that moment, so if I break it down, in that moment, because of my signaling and my reading of the energy and what's going on in this particular door, in this particular corridor, in this whatever space thing, then they could then, so I had in that, and because it was the way that I did it, then they could then see it, so they got the whole picture. So they did come really close, and much closer than they had been the rest of the time, and they were all on it. That's the best I can say, to not put any kind of slant on it, to keep it neutral. Although Joanna said, well, and remember, each time I go to a door, I'm doing an invocation. I am doing a right, So needless to say, I kicked my choosing up many more notches on this one, and that was good. That was, everybody was standing by on guard, that was good. But as I started to reach for the handle, she said, and on this one, so maybe I would describe it as, okay, so this is interesting. So I was about to describe it as maybe more of a sense eked out, of what this, but I think what's more, so all weekend I would have described it that way. Right now, I think a better way to characterize it is, as door hasn't been opened yet. I have given my whole choosing and very explicit and a command. The rest were commands, but this was absolutely a command of what would be allowed, what would not be allowed, how, I'm one, I'm it, I'm the leader of this source, and I will give my command on how this will play. So there were, but I get the sense now that in doing that and in me connecting with that, I telegraphed to them, I telepathically opened up so that they could then, there's a lot that I'm still decoding and translating and all that kind of stuff, but this is coming clearer, that, so however you would describe it, and it may or may be important, which I'll see at some point if it is, but in that, so I'd committed to the door, I was then somehow I don't know if I opened up a channel or somehow was able to then communicate everything that I was picking up on every level from this. Does that make sense? And it happened fairly quickly. And the reason I think it's important for me to draw this thing, first of all, because I want to figure it out, but in relaying it is because then Joanna said, well, that's what she said, we're all going to come closer to you. In fact, we're all going to angle between the door and you. And I thought, that was interesting. Something about the way they are positioning themselves, not only closer, not only surrounding, but with me. And I've got my hand on the portal, so, no freaky here yet. Okay, well, I may be doing freaky stuff, but I hadn't freaked out yet. So I tightened my hold on the handle and was starting to open it. So this is very interesting to me. So yes, there are others who are maybe more practiced in the shamanic thing and, all that. But this is my journey, Keegan and my journey. So we own it. We command it. We control it. We actually know all of the nuance, all of the, and this happened, what was behind these things were our, you could say it's one part of an eon or one, it's our stuff, but more important because it's our shamanic journey. It's our stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of highlighting this for myself, and then any others who are kind of getting what I'm saying is, so this is really important because not only does it go directly to the you're not small, but and the non-interference clause and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we really have, and you know, I know it all the time. This is just another time that I've proven to myself in a very observer effect, I think I would say. So I'm here during the journey with Keegan. We're doing this thing, and Joanna's there, and I'm observing. So I'm being it, doing it, but I'm also observing me and how I'm going through this test, how I'm going through this training mission. And this will make more sense when we get a little bit more further out. So anyway, so that was very clear. And so then the next thing Joanna says, well, in fact, you know, so they've already moved closer there. She's mentioned they've already going to stand between the door. We're only going to open this door just a crack. So my eyebrow went up at that. I thought, okay, so you're neutral, you're describing, you're meaning this, you're watching. Are you missing something? Do you need to pay a skosh more attention? Like, you know, be on it a bit more. So, you know, I'm looking at him, checking in. No, we're good. We, you know, okay. So, but anyways, I thought that was very interesting because this is not. So this maybe comes in with the wisdom or more practice of the shamanic that, okay, he's big, bad, bear, antelope, deer, dragon, vampire, you know, so whole cadre of shit behind that door we need, you know. I said, okay, you know, so I then called, you know, did the call the gifts forward. And they came out in a big whoosh. And in this particular one, there was more, you know, there was more of an impact, there was more of a shift, there was more of a noticing, there was more of a meaning. And Keegan and I are doing what we're doing, and we're, you know, decoding and noticing, and we're being watched very carefully. And Joanna first asks me how I am, and I'm saying, you know, good, there's a lot here. And I start to describe again some visuals and some sensing and stuff, and that there's huge files in this one with great weight, and you know, similar things that I had already been described, more of the same.
Right.
You know, a lot to look at here, but I'm doing good. How's Keegan? I said, well, you know, he's good. He's not nervous, but he's trying to think what I said. He's you know, like if we've gone and done something, he's, you know, there's a lot. I said it's a lot. I think maybe it's just as simple as it's a lot. And so that's when she then tuned in. I don't know whether I conveyed, you know, I'm not from the describing it, you know, backing out of it all. I'm not, you know, how to convey it all, but somehow I conveyed. So she tuned in and took a closer look, and she said, "Oh, Keegan, what's that you got there? That's not yours." Because in these gifts, there were things that were specifically for me, the being, and specifically for Keegan, the being. And one of the things that had popped out with these gifts was a being. And it was about this big, and it was kind of not from Earth. Animal-esque, animal, the humanoid animal. I don't know what the hell the right thing, but so right like that. Maybe here on this planet you might take a lemur-y looking thing with a bit more of a batty nose thing, very super sensory, but not, again, it's very difficult to use linear terms, but not a being as opposed to an animal. Does that make sense?
Well, the minute you said a being popped out, for some reason I saw, because Lisa got a text today from someone she knows, and there was a stuffed animal Stitch. And the minute you said being, I got Stitch in my head. I saw that little Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. It's a character who is an alien who ends up on Earth. And yes, and it's a Disney movie called.
It does have humongous ears.
Yes, this one had big ears.
I'm telling you, I've
never seen what you're talking about. Never. That's interesting.
Yes, that's very interesting. Keep talking. I'm going to find a picture of Stitch to show you. So
this, but this being wasn't evil, wasn't malevolent. It had been trapped in this portal, energetic envelope, however you want to describe it.
Sure.
Which was a bad place to be in general, but specifically,
there are some images of Stitch.
Yeah, he's kind of cartoony. Mine wasn't cartoony,
right? But of course I didn't think it was.
This one down here in the bottom would be the closest.
This guy?
No, the other bottom.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm sure it wasn't Stitch, but that's what I saw in my head immediately when you said.
Yeah, it was more animal-like than that, and more realistic animal-like than that, but it wasn't, it wasn't just a pure lemur. It was, but it also had, and I do not mean to demean the animal in any way, but it was, so I don't know why I'm describing this way. It's kind of a funny way, but it was more, and this isn't correct either, but anyways, absolute placeholder. It was a more sentient being than an animal. Now that's really, I don't know, what is that? Whatever the thing, conjugation of conscious racist,
Consciousness racism? Are you?
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Apologies to all beings everywhere for.
Well, especially since I just laughed and told me that, I know better. But so, anyways, but it was trapped in there. And for whatever, or how, or whatever, it knew it could jump out here. And okay, so I'm kind of looking at it, well, that's cool, but meantime, Keegan and I are just like, this is stuff right here. So we're looking at the little lemur-y guy, and I feel bad. I'm really glad that he's out, but I'm thinking I'm not bringing home the lemur-y guy, so we've got to go someplace else. So then Joanna says, well, your dragons come forward, and one of your allies that you've got with you this is your dragon. I said, yes. And she said, well, he's gonna take him, and then one of my allies is gonna go to make sure that gets taken to where it wants to go, and then, it'll escort your dragon back. Is that okay? Yes, that's fine. So that was kind of interesting, and that in itself there was so much going on, so on the one hand, I could say, I don't know how, Shamanic, I've only done 2. I don't know how the hell to do this kind of stuff, or what am I supposed to, I mean, I could, play small and do all that kind of stuff, and Smarmy sure as hell wanted to, come on, man, we don't know what, but in each part of it, there was so much stuff going on. For example, when she asks about my dragon, there was a moment of, okay, so she can see the dragon, so it's really a real dragon. I mean, not that I doubt that, but you understand what I'm saying there? So many layers.
Why, sure. I mean, that's a bit of, there's nothing wrong with some validation, by the way. I don't think, personally. I mean, I believe in what I'm doing and what I'm seeing, but it's always fun to have somebody else say, yeah, I see it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So lots of, I guess one of the things I'm going to get across is that there was so much going on and so much stuff that I could, I don't have to, but if I wanted to play and dive into all different nuances, there's, more and more to mine there. Yet I have it all. It's not like I'm going to forget, So it's very interesting to me, and maybe this is another thing to call attention to, because I know both of you have mentioned in different times, you describe it in a different way, but where you've struggled with that, or it's been an issue, or annoyed the hell out of you, or however you want to describe it.
Probably all the above in my case.
That in decoding all of this, understanding it, bringing it right, Sheila, as you would say, right up front, and well, one is that we're not small by a long stretch, and if we only just get out of our own freaking way, we got it all going on, and we got some moves, and such style and fun and vivaciousness and skill and panache and chutzpah and real talent, in different, just to use very pale words. And as whatever we can do, shamanic journey or anything else, or your version, it doesn't matter. Do it. Go and do it. Set it. Maybe getting up from one chair and going to another chair, or a pillow on the floor, or a patch of grass, or a patch of sand, or your drive, whatever the hell, right? A seat in your car, whatever it is. And let go of the excuses. Let go of these fantastic, fabulous bullshit things that we come up with. And there are a lot of the, we wear out the long laundry list of, money or blah, 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 the top. Everybody's got their own top, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, just to flow in that, we say we want this and I can't wait to, and, when is this going to happen? Or, why am I not, we admonish, why am I not there, wherever the hell that thing there is, right, yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we make ourselves nuts with this, like, here's looking at you, nut job, let's toast to that. When you toast to yourself, it's like,
in all my glory.
And the beautiful, delicious, cosmic irony secret is that we hold the key. We hold the key. Pick the bloody key up. So, okay, so back to the dragon takes the
animal.
The stitch, not stitch.
There you go. The being home comes back. Everybody's there. So now we do one last door. And I don't remember, I said there was those two. I don't think, maybe it wasn't a door. I'm trying to it was a thing. Okay, well, the way I remember it, because, hey, it's Keegan and I, that's where,
Mm-hmm.
It was the door of all the gifts. So the gifts are there, they're bestowed, they're coming in, they're integrating. The lemur guy got off, taken home, everybody's back.
Nice. A lot has been accomplished.
And so we're wrapping up, we're concluding, we're we're doing this, whatever the hell that is, right?
We're in a cool down mode. That's what I'm feeling led to say.
And so there's a door to that because in opening, it's washing over us, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
And this was the culmination, the coherence, of all the gifts, right? And okay, right, I'm just trying to get the order of, so we do that. Are you ready? Keegan's ready. And this was palpable in a huge way. And I'm nudged to remind that, well, clearly with the, we're only opening in a quarter and we're all standing, and not all of the corridors, I'm just going to do the corridor. So it's the whole world, the whole, right, okay, corridor, were light, fluffy bunnies, but in calling, it was so, because all is love, and we just parse it out, and it's not arbitrary. It's not, all is. So it's either all is or it all ain't.
It is or it isn't.
You know what I mean? So that was part of the that was part of that which was palpable, was that all of this, and they truly were all gifts. They may have been at the hand of a dagger or something else, or this verdant, lush field. You know, I'm trying to paint the.
Well, I'm glad, I'm actually glad to hear you bring this up, because that was one of the questions that I'd heard. Because, and it might have been because it was my question in a way, in a sense. What I'm coming to in regards to, you know, absolute love includes things that one might otherwise think, "Oh, you think that's a gift? Where's the gift in that," kind of thing. But it is, right? That's kind of what you're describing here, right? That it may have come, like you said, at the end of a dagger or whatever, but it was still a gift.
Yeah.
And
because there's no judgment in any of it.
Right. That was something that came up for me. So I'm glad that we're speaking on this in this moment, so that
because it's
really
just it simply doesn't exist. Does that make sense? It simply doesn't exist.
What simply doesn't exist?
The judgment, the
okay.
plotting,
all right. I wasn't quite sure you were referring to that. I got you.
It is what it is. You meet it. This is why this is why probably the last 6 months more heavily, more emphatically, more fiercely talking about you meet things, you connect things, right? You're subject to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that there is balance, in that there's wholeness, in that there is energy, and energy is meeting energy, and it may have different frequency, different component, and in the meaning, in the coherence that it comes to, and then co-creation, there is no judgment to it.
Well, that's yes, and because that is a bit of a confusing, and I'm going to make a note here. I'd like for us to do a conscious conversation specifically on just this point.
Sure.
Because that is a confusing concept. That's part of the reason why everything gets all twisted around and people get all discombobulated with the idea of seeing that. And now I know that it's a matter of perspective of how one is viewing that gift, right?
Yes.
But and hence my issue with the word love and the way everybody couches that, or, you know, well, that's not of love. Well, yes, it is. It's, you know, but it's how you look at love, whether or not it is. Like you were saying, this gift that presented, let's just say it was at the end of a dagger. Well, how can you think of that as a gift? Well, it's all love. There's no judgment.
Well, I can tell you absolutely with no reservations that being homeless was a gift.
Right. I that's what I'm saying. So I want us to play with that in more detail, of course, but I absolutely understand what you're saying. It's just that there's been some twisting, you know, in the way that that's presented, you know, and some folks are, like I said, would say, well, how can you view that as a gift? If it came at the end of a dagger, how the hell is that a gift? And that for me is encapsulated in with that. Well, what is actually love absolute? Love absolute includes everything. Just everything, everything. With no judgment of any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that can be considered a gift, because, you know, because it is.
Yeah. So we did this door, we did this wash with all these things, and Keegan and I and Joanna, all checked in, and everybody else is, the room's still crowded. And then Joanna said, "Well, do you, check in with you after all this is washed? So all the gifts. These are all the gifts. The door is open to all the gifts. They all wash over us. They all come into us. So we are receiving. We've asked for the gifts. Give us only the gifts, right? All that other stays in there. We don't have to relive it. It's not, except for the little guy who popped out. Nothing's, right? And now we're accepting the gifts. We're integrating. We're following through. We said yes. We're here. We're doing this. We're not saying, whoa, now after that animal thing, both bets are up, right? So okay, that's all. And so so Joanna asks me, checking everything, and she said, of all the gifts and everything, are they all yours? No. Oh, okay. Well, you have something of Keegan's? Yeah. And what does that feel like? I said, well, it doesn't fit, and it was in this area right here, and very sharp. And anyway, so I described all of that, and she said, well, do you choose to give it to where it belongs? Yeah, absolutely. Not only because it's not mine and it doesn't fit, and I don't have an attachment to it, but I have the sense, and this was very strong, that it was the gift was the right fit for him. Does that make sense? And so hopefully this will still keep going, because I know I'm frozen probably to you. I don't know.
There she comes. There you are.
Thanks for coming back.
Yes, thank you so much for rejoining the show already in progress. So we lost you when you were saying that you did choose, because it was not only was it not yours and it didn't fit, but
I had the sense that it would that it was Keegan's and they would fit well. Yeah. So I withdrew it from me.
Okay.
And made sure that I withdrew all of it. Mm-hmm. And held it out, and Keegan took it in. He brought it in. And that seemed to fit very well with him. Okay. We're going to frozen again.
Okay.
There. Did you hear that? Or you froze, or I froze? Somebody froze.
No, you froze for us, so no.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm not wanting to share this part. I don't know what the scoop is here. Can you hear me? Am I frozen too?
Well, all righty then.
Welcome back.
Okay, so Keegan took it in and it fit well.
Yeah. And then she checked in with Keegan and asked if all of the stuff that he had was his. And so I'm kind of back to the part where we took the long journey for the little creature guy, so that wasn't his. And then there was something else he had of mine, and so we got all of that. And then And then we were wrapping it up, and what was very interesting as we were wrapping it up, so we came back from, we were still in the energetic envelope of the journey, but we were more in the tangible part of the journey, if that makes sense. So the more in the room part of the journey, because the space was still open, right? You know, the connection, she in the shamanic, she, you know, calls to the ancestors and calls to the four directions, and so that's part of the grounding. And
Sure.
And this was particularly funny. So now remember, I haven't, and I still haven't, but at that point I certainly had less than I had now, although I had a lot, you know, because we were going to find out what's the karmic, you know, crap that went on that, you know, does this thing that the metaphor of the puppy now represents. And he's like, you know, you do this all the time, and now we're going to do it again with it, you know, kind of. So that was the whole, we were finding out, and it was a huge success, if for no other reason than the puppy was the metaphor, was the conduit, was the catalyst to go and do this whole thing, which you know, I've uncovered and decoded and stuff. You know, huge things have come from that, you know, to-do lists and all that kind of stuff. So she's taking her blindfold. We're still sitting there. He's, you know, and he's laying now, and he's laying next to my chair, you know, like this, but he's kind of facing her, and he's relaxed. And they're talking to each other, you know. So usually when she's talking, is that okay, and this and that. Okay, we bypass it because they're having this side conversation. And he's like, you know, ask her, you know, kind of a thing. And and she said, well, you know, so I said, well, I don't, there's a lot to unpack. I said, could I describe to you, like a, you know, is there an answer? No, not specifically to different things. I know a lot happened. I know a lot came in. I know there's a lot there. I know there's a lot I can access, and there's more out the coast. And I may have talked about the puppy. I don't, maybe not. But in my mind, I already had, you know, the sense of where we were with that. And she said something about, and this is just particularly funny. I mean, you know,
somebody wants to know, BZ, what was she supposed to ask?
It's so funny that this keeps getting chopped up this way. I don't know what it is about this question going through, but come on, internet, let's go. Am I back?
Coming all the way back. There we go.
He made it.
Okay, someone's asking a question, you were saying?
Yes, they're saying, well, so what is he asking her to ask you?
Right. Well, about the, you know, kind of a thing, you know. Oh, he wanted, I'm trying to think if there was a distinct question instead of just, you know, the general question about the puppy. And she said, well, he's wanting to know, you know, why do you know, it sounded like such a human kid kind of a thing when he, because she's giving voice to what he's asked. You know, why do we need a dog? Like, He didn't say what's, why I'm not good. He didn't go there, but it wasn't like that. But it was cute, and I said, well, right now, no, something about. She said, well, he's. I think she said, he doesn't. He still doesn't want the dog now. Maybe not ever, but he doesn't want the dog now, and the puppy now, and we don't need the puppy now, and I said, oh yeah, I got that. I'm all set. And the look on his face, I swear to God, it was so hysterical. She and I are cracking up, and he's cracking up. He did with his eyebrow, the different color. And I said, it's cool. Puppy's on hold. And the look he gave, it was not the first time, the first time in a dog suit kind of thing. This is a, human esque, whatever, however you want to describe, in a dog suit with a furry eyebrow. Look, it was very interesting. I mean, it was so, I don't know how to describe it properly, but it was pretty damn funny. And I said, right there, that that byplay and that look, the trip was worth it because, I mean, we do know how to communicate. We do a bang up job of it, and we don't need an interpreter. It's cool to have someone else who may flesh things out in different ways or give confirmation. There was a lot of that for me in the animal communicator thing, but and I think the last part on that, was oh, so this is there was a last, but there was a little bit more about the puppy, but it's cool. Sometime it will be the perfect time to get the puppy. And I said, and actually we have gotten the puppy because the whole metaphor of the puppy has brought us on this journey. And isn't that what, a puppy does? It brings new life. It brings new perspective. It gets you out of your, maybe a rut or whatever, right? New experiences, new fun, go play with it, right? So, and it's a possibility, but I'm pretty certain at this moment, at this time, we wouldn't have gone and done what we've done. And we've gone and done what we've, and trying to think of the right wording, it was extremely important and the perfect timing, all is perfectly done for us to do at this moment, because in doing this, we both said yes for the mastery level, the up jump ship, because Laura Walker was talking about this in her thing as well, right? That we, and in 2020, well, it's here right now, so you can wait to 2020, but so there is, so this is kind of the what's already so far come out of this is that there's big training that he and I have to consciously, intently go through in a different way. And one of the things he said was, and again, we were kind of talking over the whole, how in going through the journey, remember I said to go into the heart space and not out there, and he said, well, I want you to learn or practice, or I'm not sure the right, conjugation of it, but where you talk specifically to me in the animal communicator style. He wasn't saying you don't talk to me, because we do talk all the time, but where everything else is filtered out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's fine down. It's the swimming lanes. I've had that story before, right? So like that. And
with your 100% full focus and attention
yes,
on the communication that's
yes,
taking place between the two of you, and only on that.
yes,
Right?
and different than, because I give him my full attention all the time. That's a but this communication in the truest sense, the most expanded, does that make sense? So there are times where and it's intentional, all I do is focus on him, whether we're sitting under a tree or whatever, right? So that's not what he's talking about. And there is communication, and there is conversation, and there is connection, and in tune and intuitive and telepathy and all that kind of stuff. But he wants it, but there's a point to it above and beyond just that. It's part of the next step of much more placeholders, but high level, more in depth, more intense training. Does that make sense?
Yes. Did you get any sense from him as to what that's about?
Yeah, because, well, as we were going, so we're talking about this, and I said to Joanna, don't you have a thing on your, things you can do? Because I actually thought about it long before who knew about you could take your dog on a shamanic journey, right?
Right?
I said, don't you have a thing where you can learn to communicate better with, your dog? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, could we do that? And it was interesting because she said, well, I'm not really, so this goes right into your question. She said, well, but you do it really well. You guys already really communicate. Most people don't do what you do. And it may have some differences to the way I do it, but in the questions you ask, so she said, I'm not sure what I could bring to the table, or how I could bring it to the table that it would, because now she's wanting to make sure that she can actually not just say, oh yeah, well, we can do that, and then she gets her thing and off we go, where she's actually delivering it, and how she could do it that really brings us forward. So again, that was interesting to hear. It's not the animal, and so in that whole conversation with the three of us, it was, and maybe not audibly, so the three of us are having a conversation, and he and I definitely got this part of the conversation. I'm not certain she did. Does that make sense? Because it unpacked itself a lot, and it still is after over the Saturday night and Sunday morning. Because I wrote some of the things down, but that it's very important that and he would definitely enjoy it, but that I learn, that I take what I have already and jump it up 20 some odd or more notches right now. Just to that, I'm here. If I'm here, go to this level right away. And the benefit, directly right away to him is because then he'll get just that. But it's in preparation. So in doing that, because he and I both would like to do that and think it would be cool, that is part of the training. That's the way out is through. And what it changes, it's a prep for new missions. It's a prep for what's coming up. It's a prep for next big steps that need this. It will go very fast once we get in that. And I don't have a full sense of it yet, but I did get some inkling of what you were saying, that he, and I didn't get specifics, but I did get a sense of that he is going to transform, or into. And again, so since I don't attach to it, I'm not asking a lot of. It will come. I'm open to whatever that is or how that looks, but I don't need, But what is very clear is that it's a new form, a new tool, a new superpower of finding. So I'm teleporting, I'm telepathic, I'm empathic, I got a tool, it's a superpower where I can call it out, and it's to any species, any being, so these are just kind of placeholders from some of the pictures that are coming of negotiations or what do you call it? It's so screwed up in this planet, but you've got a delegation of not ambassadors. What are they? Beyond negotiators, was diplomatic, making.
Okay. I think I get the gist of what you're trying to say here. Yeah, well, as soon as you said diplomatic, I kind of, the folks that are supposed to be neutral and they're kind of facilitating things. Is that what you're?
Like a liaison, or
yeah, that kind of thing. So holding the space and helping facilitate, right?
Okay.
But not the way the diplomatic corps here is like so
right
bourgeois and out to lunch. But so in the true sense,
right.
And
so that's part of the training for the both of you. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense too, actually. And so when you were mentioning earlier, were you trying to say that because if we do end up sharing this video, we never shared with anyone in regards to what I had said my sense of it was that what you were alluding to earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. So just for my own validation, you didn't get any exactly, oh yeah, that's going to happen, I take it. Oh no, she's gone again.
No, I'm here. Am I here?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, damn it.
No, I got a sense of it, but not with specifics of how it would actually work out. And like I said, since I don't label or grab at,
right, I got
thing, there's a.
Well, do you mind if we share what I said?
No, that's fine. So
okay,
share that, and then I'm going to say what I do have a clarity on.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Because
Although it's morphogenetic.
I have wondered if we got any kind of validation for me. And when BZ first shared the communication that she's had between with Joanna and Keegan and herself, I got an immediate sense of a few things that I shared with BZ. Part of the reasoning behind Keegan not wanting a puppy now is that my sense of it was that BZ is helping him in the dog suit, not just getting used to the movement around on planet Earth, but I got a sense that he was going to transition to a walk in and into a human walk in. About, don't ask me where it came from or whatever, because I can't say, but that was a sense of it. And it kind of came in really strong when you sent me the picture. I think it was Friday after we had talked on Thursday, I think it was. But anyway, it was a picture of Keegan and Luke in your golf cart. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so huge. And I had to share it with you. So I don't know. I was just very interested to know if anything came of what my sense of what, may transpire or is going to transpire.
Well, that's what I'm talking about is, so with this training in particular to this style, or I'm just going to call it style of communication, where it's that fine point down where everything else freeze frames. Yes, it's for our purposes, but in playing with the purposes, that purpose of it's the training for taking it wider, because some big changes are coming, not only for us, but they are right here, and they are palpable, demonstrable, big changes, like completely changed, like totally different change, like irrevocably changed.
No, I feel you.
And this is how we prepare for it, and there are big changes coming in this unit and the shifting of this unit. So I didn't say, although part of me, may have wanted to, shifting, does that mean to a different form? Because I may not be ready to hear that yet, or choosing to hear that yet, or not allowed because it cannot be spoken out loud yet because of different security things and so on and so forth. So I don't know. But I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Because the knowing that I do have is already pretty strong, and it will guide me where I need to go. And one of the parts is that this coming Friday, I'll have a session. We'll do it over Zoom, but we'll have a session where we'll do a big piece of that training. And then I actually have been nudged to do some other things that will get me from other resources and other stuff we're working on. And then me directly have been working with my own communication. So the conduit is open. I think it's been labeled now. It's got a label, it's got a term. There was channeling, and I think it's called direct voice channeling now, where that's what it's been labeled as. I've been doing it for years, so I don't know, and I don't label things. I mean, when someone described this and the direct voice channeling, I thought, okay, I think if I was going to label it, that's something that, and that's where these people were channeling this entity, that was separate than them. And this, knowing entity and this higher vibration entity, and, up on another rung, and you're down here, and, right?
Mhm.
And newsflash,
Mhm.
it's not a separate entity. So that's why I joke, because I'm just a girl and a dog, and, I talk to my soul all the time, and I don't label it that way, just, so, but apparently now that's happening, where people are, maybe they're able to own that now, just for themselves. Because if it's something different, it's not you, and you're small, and that makes sense, so then you could trust that, which seems to be completely ass backwards, but hey, whatever.
Well, yeah, no, that's part of that programming. We trust doctors, and we trust teachers, and we trust policemen, and we trust all these other beings outside of ourselves, because that's kind of how we were all programmed and conditioned. So yes, it's totally, now it seems like, well, duh, I need to trust myself more than I need to trust any of these boobs. But it's not the way we were raised, so this is all really very new for a lot of us.
So this
Most
is
of us.
direct voice channeling. I just have seen it in a couple of different places, referring to different beings, and I laughed, not at the being, but it's a little bit more of the same kind of thing, because we're labeling it again. How about they're just this incredible being giving voice to incredible things? Oh my God, they'd actually be owning it all, and wouldn't that be cool? So
it's coming, BZ, it's coming.
To each their own. But anyway, so I don't know where I got off on that, but translation has a lot to do with it. Interbeing, interspecies, inter societies, intergalactic, like keep going inter and go like that, and it's around that, and it isn't per se out there, it's all right here, the blue planet. So big changes, big change right here, right now. And the rest, we're just kind of going through and figuring out. But as we said, it's interesting, the timing of all this. You were talking about Laura Walker, and then you also mentioned, is it Molly McCord, and that, the whole change in 2020, January 12th.
Yeah, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is a really big deal that all the astrologers are talking about.
Right.
And back before, I think his name was Dan Boudreau. Is that that the right name? He said Dan Boudreau, before he stopped doing his astrology.
Carl Boudreau.
Carl Boudreau. That's right. Thank you. Before he stopped doing astrology, he wrote a couple of really good articles that might still be available on his Facebook page in regards to Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus, these larger planets. They signaled the oligarchy and the system that we have in place long ago, and had kind of held it in place, right? Mm-hmm. And he noted that coming up, that these were now moving into areas that were all about the destruction of the oligarchies, and all about and the deconstructing of all of what the dismantling that we're seeing,
right.
and it has to do, it was reflected and or metaphorically, energetically, all of that. It's been leading up to that, and the more I learn about each of these planets have been assigned specific energetics, over the course of, just whatever astrology is, thousands of years. This conjunction that's happening in January of 2020 is a big damn deal, energetically speaking. And so, yeah.
And as with all things, that we're in the pre-phase of it, the lead up to it, the muscle building for it, the getting it smooth, getting it done, getting on the run, and more important, it's you got the path pavers and the forerunners and all of that to get the shit done now, because when it comes on the January 12th, 2020, and it hits everybody, that's when people, of the groups that I just mentioned, path pavers and all that kind of stuff, are going to need to be out there and step up and do it, because shit's been hitting the fan for a long time. Although some people say, well, nothing's happening. Well, fine, but it's it's going to be raining down, pouring down, washing away, slooshing over, kind of a thing. And the army of light better damn well be there and ready, not just thinking about getting ready or hey, guess I better get with the program. Kind of.
Yeah. Well, I have a real sense that there's more and more stepping up in every moment. Sometimes, just following the nudge to reach out to someone really can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Because, that's what I'm finding as I've had, now 2 separate incidences just in the last week. Of my feeling nudged to reach out to someone that I don't even really know, and knowing that there's something there. Not exactly sure what or what I'll find, but so, yeah.
And that's the way it goes.
Right.
It can be that vague, it can be that strong a nudge, but it beats the hell out of me. I don't know, I just work here, kind of thing.
Well, isn't that
but
what
you
you did? Isn't that kind of what you did with this shamanic journey with Keegan? Really was kind of on a nudge, wasn't it? To even contact the animal communicator to begin with.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can unfold and unpack and present in such really cool ways from simply following a nudge. And
absolutely, and it's a way to get the next set of instructions, your net permission to show up for your training and all that kind of thing, which has already begun. But I was at another site looking up hydrotherapy for him as part of his whole rehab and the road back and or road forward, and I was nudged to go look at the resources page, and so she was right at the top, and they had other things. So, well, that's interesting. And then I moved away to something else, and actually went back to work, doing something linear work and thought about it a little bit. And there was a couple other things on the page, and then I was nudged to go back. I said, okay, so then I opened up her site and looked at all that. And oh, that's kind of interesting. I've been interested in that for a while, and that's kind of interesting. And noticed little things on the site, and then I was, trying to go to sleep, and was told, you could book it right on the site. So, like, you could book it now, and then you can pick the calendars right there. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. It's cool. Right, I'm getting up right now, and I'm gonna go book it. That's a bang up idea. This is me getting up, mucking and doing. Got my eyes open, turned the computer back on, booked the thing. I said, okay, I'm going to bed now because I booked. It's okay with you? Yeah, okay. So, yeah.
Well, and that is following a nudge, because I gotta admit, there's been lots of times when I'm like, oh, screw you, I'm going back to sleep. So that's commitment. That's throwing your hand up and saying you're all in.
Yeah. And that's part of, so that begets, that draws to you more trust on both ways, more response able ability, so responsible. So that's what the response able is. A lot of times, we talked about this before, people hold it as punitive, but it's not, or potential to be punitive, or characterized that way. It's response able. So, well, how come I don't get the cool stuff? Well, how come you don't get your ass out of bed?
Well, there's that.
You know what I mean? So, it's a two-way street, and it's communication with you, to you, and source. And
Yeah.
and this really is a time for all to do that, because that, as we talked about in the last conversation we did, where it's from apprenticeship to masteryship. You are moving from apprenticeship to masteryship. In fact, you have moved out of apprenticeship into masteryship. You are. It is. It's happening. It's on. It's here now. That's not a choice. How you will flow and navigate that which is so is a bit of the choice.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just got a visual. For some reason I saw, you know how in a pinball machine, the old school pinball machines, how you just bouncing around between all those little bumpers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or smooth. It could be smooth, or it could be bouncing around in bumpers. So
yeah,
I get you. Wow, this is I'm really glad that you shared that with us. I hope that you do decide that we can share this, because I think it's been really
we can share. I'm not sure many people will go 3 hours and 20 minutes, but
well, it's not been that long actually. I think it's a little over 2 hours, because we were in here quite some time. We didn't restart this. Yeah, we were, but it will be at least 2 hours. And hey, that's okay. I enjoyed it. So
yeah, me too. It was very helpful for me. And actually Keegan thought it was very helpful too. So, and it's one of those things where, people talk about too, it's kind of the last way I'll finish this, well, I wish we had, there's people close by. I said, well, this is the best way to all sit in the living room together, and we're just, hey, I went and did this, weird thing, or I got a nudge to do this, or,
Well, that's exactly right. That's why, I love this. And actually, this seems a perfect time to actually say this, VZ. That's part of the whole reason Conscious Conversation Central has been such a really huge attraction for me, is that just a bunch of folks sitting around in a living room, a virtual living room, having a conversation. And, that's really all this is. When I reach out to folks, a lot of folks get all shy about being on camera. It's not like that. We're just having a conversation. If once it goes out there, other people join it, it's still just a conversation. And yet it can be the kind of conversation that can activate and you, somebody else, and our sharings are what helps to set these templates for these sorts of conversations. You want them locally, you gotta have them first. Right? Oh gosh, we lost Lisa that time.
You guys were frozen for me, but I could hear Sheila from the other room.
Right. Well, we still can't see you. We can hear you.
I can't see you either. So.
You can't see me either. Okay, there you are.
Computer's tired, so we should.
It must be, because that's pretty wild. Now I gotta, especially since we're on the same Wi-Fi. I do not get that at all.
I know. Well, I think I'm fading and it's showing. I really have time.
I was gonna say,
Lisa's going,
what? Lisa's turned
this
the
is
light on.
fascinating, but
I think I fell asleep twice. No, I'm kidding.
did you really? Oh my God.
I know. I just caught myself being very relaxed.
You got a little spittle, a little drool there, my love.
I had to check. Not this time, but earlier.
Hey, there he goes. People want to know another use for shamanic journeys. Just insomnia.
I think it sent me on my own journey. Sorry.
All right, all the usual things.
Yes, we'll have all the usual things in all the usual places. And subscribe to both BZ Reader's channel and Conscious Conversation Central if you're watching it on either channel. And we'll see you guys next time.
Much love.